Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's nice to have you. It's Crystal one-on-one time. So if you enjoy these conversations, please do like and subscribe. Today I have a media personality, a communicator and a teacher joining me. We happen to be at the Carnival Gardens, beautiful lush green gardens in Naguru. And Irene Ochwo is here. I'm so excited. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, and thank you for having me over in your wonderful space.
It's a pleasure. Long overdue.
Yeah.
Long
Oh, well.
overdue. It's funny how we worked together, but somehow we kept passing each other.
It wasn't the right time.
Yes.
Now is the right time.
Now is the right time.
Yes.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am evolving, growing, challenging myself. Yeah, I'm doing great.
That's important. Those are all the things we're supposed to
be doing, yes.
Evolving, especially.
Exactly.
Okay, so some people know you as a communicator in different spaces. Some people know, radio. Irene Ochwo was radio. And then there's the fact that you actually have a background in education. Where do we even begin, my dear? Where were you born? Let's start there.
Okay, where was I born? That's an interesting thing. My name is Irene Ochwo, but I was born in Masaka.
Okay.
Yeah, well, my parents, I would say, would put them in the category of the diplomats of that time.
Okay.
So my dad was in civil service, and he was then, what was he? I can't remember the title. But there were people who were in leadership then.
Okay.
And so by the time I was born, his position was in Masaka. He had just been a leader in Muvende. Now he was in Masaka, and this little girl was born sometime in November in Masaka. And I remember even when I went to school, people used to say, "I don't know, but born in Masaka." I was like, yeah, my dad travels. So I was born in a family where my parents were traveling. They were in leadership. So we lived in different towns, but I happened to be born in Masaka.
Okay, so you moved a lot growing up.
We did. As young children, we did until we finally settled in Kampala, when he eventually he became the clerk to the National Assembly, and that's when we settled. But all through that, because my sister, I think, was born in Hoima, my brother Masindi. Yeah.
So your birth certificates are very
all over
interesting.
Uganda. So that's the joke we have when someone asks me, "Are you not sure you're born in Masaka? You speak Luganda, you speak Lusoga, you speak Nyoro?" I just tell them I am Ugandan.
Wow.
That's who I
So
am.
how many languages do you speak
Okay,
then?
so English, Luganda, Lusoga, Runyoro, Rutoro. Now I'm learning Ruchiga.
Do you enjoy learning languages?
I think I do, because
I feel some people are just naturally gifted.
I think so, because for me, languages is a portal for communication. And then I'm always intrigued by how it sounds, and I would want it to sound through my mouth. So I teach myself.
So you like to listen to other people and you're like, ooh, I want to sound like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at home, what languages do you speak?
At home, in my home where I'm married,
Yes.
English.
English? Oh no. And the children?
English, but I'm blessed that my parents are still around, so that they've really looked after my kids. So my mom is a Mnyoro, my dad is a Japadola. And then growing up at home, the language we knew was Runyoro and English, not Okay.
Yes,
Japadola.
it's
Mommy
always a
took
mother
over.
tongue. It's always a mother tongue, by the way.
So my mom and dad have been looking after my kids until now they're teenagers, so we no longer do those trips. But they taught them English and Runyoro.
Okay.
Somehow Jap disappeared there. They have to forgive us. But in my home right now, it's English and a bit of Ruchiga and Runyoro, because mom put some influence in there.
Okay, but what about the Ruchiga? Is that your husband?
My husband is from Kabale. Yes.
So that's why we're also trying to learn it.
Yes. So that I'm not left out, because when we visit, I can speak, but you know, it has a different, it's much more heavier than Runyoro. There's a bit of aggressiveness in it. And so it's just putting on those little touches in, but I understand exactly what they're saying. But I want to get the accent right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you finally came back settled in Kampala.
Yes.
Where did you go to school?
Nakasero Primary School. I loved it. Then again, my parents started traveling. We had a brother, he has since passed on. He was a handicapped, so he needed some special care. And so he had to go for some major operations in the UK. So my mom was torn between leaving us at home. We were blessed then, because my dad's job allowed him to have what we call house help. They were really good. They were really good. I mean, we didn't even know that mommy and daddy were not around. But it got to a point where our brother had to stay in the UK for some time because they had to go through all the physiotherapy and everything. So one of the house helps and my mom had to permanently stay in the UK. And so we had to stay home alone. But my dad was traveling because now it was Commonwealth. He's in the Philippines, he's here. So my parents got a bit worried. They're like, these kids need a home where they have some parents over them, though the house help were good. And so they first put me with my uncle and auntie, but the rebel me couldn't fit in. So there were so many complaints always going to mom and dad on phone. The little girl doesn't want to do this, doesn't, I mean, and then my parents came back and I don't know who whispered to my mom and said, you need to send them to boarding school.
Oh.
We were shipped off to boarding school. I hated boarding school. Even up to now, I hate boarding school. But, well, it was an experience because they had to keep on
Yeah, they
checking.
wanted some structure,
Yes.
some discipline.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's how I ended up being shipped to a boarding school where I learned Lusoga, Buckley High School in Busoga.
Buckley High School.
Yes. So first day in school, I only knew English. And I remember I was used to having my snack box. I packed everything like it was in Nakasero. But it was snack time, and I remember opening my snack box. There was a matron who took care of all my grab. And when I opened my snack box, I saw about 50 hands coming in front of me. Gimme, 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 gimme. I was like, no, in Nakasero we don't beg for snacks. And guess what came out of my mouth? I said, you beggars, don't beg me. Ow.
But you were a
The whole
child.
school
It
from
just-
that day called me. That girl, look at her. She's the one who calls us beggars. And yeah, eventually I fitted in. So I did my time in Buckley High School, finished my primary living, and then it was time for secondary. I went to Trinity College Nabingo first from Namasagali.
Okay.
I first went to Namasagali. Now because of
Most people went to Namasagali, never left.
mine was a problem again of people coming to visit me. My parents were still traveling a lot.
Okay.
So, and my mom was like, no one is checking on you when you have malaria and everything. You're falling sick a bit too much. Namasakali is so far away. So middle of my secondary first level, I was shifted to Trinity College Nabingo,
Okay.
where I completed and then joined the university and I went for education.
Aha!
Yeah.
Was that the plan? Was
No.
that what you wanted?
I've always wanted just to be in a place where I could speak.
Okay.
I didn't want to be a lawyer, honestly, because I felt like the arena is limited.
Oh, I can relate. I was like,
I
Lord, no.
I wanted a wider audience. So out of the options that were available, my parents said, you can't just study languages. Because I said, oh, let me just do maybe French, Latin. And they were like, what will you be? I said, I could be an air hostess, by the way. And they said, no, you have to go for something which will give you a career. So I settled for education. And I went for English literature because I knew it would keep me in a place where I would talk more and tell more stories.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I graduated from campus, my first school which was really assigned to was St. Mary's College. St. Mary's College, Kisubi, boys' school.
Okay. How was that?
It was an experience. It's it's as if
People say that when they're being polite.
yes, it was an experience. Here was this young girl out of campus, so free with her mouth, so free with her dressing, and I'm going to an all-Catholic boys' school. Where they're going to tell you have to wear a certain kind of clothing. I wanted my hair red hot. You get my point, with my lipstick. And I was like, okay, how are we going to wing this? And I'm like, I'm an English and literature teacher. It's a subject boys do not like. So I have to be dramatic if they are going to pay attention.
Yes,
and
keep their
right
attention.
from the go, I was dramatic. I remember they gave me a list of the boys who were taking literature at A-level. It's a subject most boys don't like. And the list had only 10 boys. But I walk into the classroom and there were 50 boys. I was like, okay, something funny.
Word had spread.
Yeah, the new teachers have come, hot chicks. It was a culture in SMARC. They always look forward to girls joining as teachers. And my year, we happened to be me and another girl, she's called Sarah Kakembo, and we were crazy. Basically, don't put us in a...
You know?
So you want our brains, accept us as we are. So I remember the boys came to class to all attend the literature lesson. And I gave them a poem. The next day, the class went back to its normal size because the poem knocked them out. If you try to tell them, explain the symbolism here, X, Y, and Z, and they realize, we can't keep fooling here. So yeah, that's
So
how
you
I
remained with the core 10.
And the core 10 stayed, yeah, and they were good.
Imagine coming home to a vacation each day, to a place of pure serenity, a place of pure luxury for you to entertain and unwind. At Jacana Heights, dreams come true. Take your pick from spacious 1, 2, or 3 bedroom apartments and luxurious 4-bedroom penthouses, built to international standards with fine, exceptional finishing. Located on Konge Hill, Buziga, with incredible views and a fresh breeze from the nearby Lake Victoria. It's a place for your body, soul, and mind, with a wide array of amenities. Contact us for more information. Jacana Heights, luxury hilltop living. How long were you teaching there?
I think I stayed there for quite some time. Might have been 9 or 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a while.
Yeah. I stayed there for quite a while, but my mind already was, by the time I was in the 5th year, my mind was already, classroom is too small, an arena for me. So my mind started looking around. Maybe I should become an air hostess. I actually did apply and I succeeded.
Really?
Yes. It was South African something airlines. What was it? I came, I did the interview, I passed, and then I asked myself, do I really want to travel? Do I want to leave my parents? Do I want to leave the country? I changed my mind. I said, no, I don't want that.
I'm not that adventurous.
I actually want somewhere where I want to speak to many people, because the plane still is a limited what? Is a limited space. And then FMs were coming up at that time. And I would listen and I'd say, I wish I could be on radio. I could do a better job. I just wish. Because I was in charge of drama in SMARC. The drama club had died. I revived it. Because me, anything to do with speaking, entertainment, that was it. So Banji, the late Banji, had a brother there. He was in my class. I was the class teacher. So he came one weekend and said, oh, my brother tells me you're quite entertaining, you have revived the drama club, you're very good at speaking. Why don't you try out in Capital? They're looking for a lady to fill up a mid-morning slot. There was a lady there called Jamila or something, Jamila I think, and she was leaving, and they needed to replace a lady. So I was like, how can I get in? He says, oh, just go to Capital Radio offices, tell them Banji has sent you, you've come for the voice test. So I asked for a day off at school, got onto the taxi, came to Kampala. I got to Capital Radio, I found the program director, Hoop Girls, and he says, oh, go to the production studio, do the voice test, we'll get back in touch with you. So I remember walking into the studio, there was Charles Sokot, some other guys, I mean, they were all men. It's like, okay. So they're like, okay, show us your magic. They say you have the voice.
So do the voiceover in front of all of them.
Exactly. So I said, you want the voice? I said, yes. So they started teasing me, sound sexy, sound this. I did everything because me acting was okay. So once I was done, they said, oh, we shall get in touch with you. Just leave us a number, we'll get in touch with you.
Okay.
So I remember getting home in the evening and the call came in. Come back to Capital Radio, you've passed the voice test.
Oh.
I was like, ooh. So I was like, okay, I need to ask for a week off here at SMARC. So I get to Capital Radio, Hoop Girls tell me, we're going to give you only one day to train in the production studio. Tomorrow you're on air. I'm like, what? And it was CDs. Man.
You have your stack.
Playlist, what? I was like, okay. So I did that in the production studio. It was okay. Then they took me on air the next day. I was totally different. I forgot to switch off the on-air button. And
you left the mic on.
Yes, and I couldn't find the next CD for the next song. And I was busy cursing. S-H-I-T, 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 and that was going on air.
I know this happens to all of us.
I was like, okay, so
if there's only one thing to remember at the mic,
exactly.
As soon as you're done, switch it off.
Hoop Girls walks in and says, hi, Irene, what have you done?
So
I
you were
said,
cussing.
yes, I told him, well, guess what? At least they are listening now. The phone is ringing. So from that day on, the first thing I learned about radio, mic off,
Yes.
before you even say anything. And I left that day feeling so tired. I was like, what have I got myself into? Everyone was running in telling me, sound like this, sound like so and so, sound like this. I went home, I was tired. I took Panados, I went to sleep. And then I woke up in the morning, I said, Irene, you have your voice and you know what you're all about. Go and do you. So second day on air is when I spoke Lusoga, Uganda, everything. And the phones were ringing off the hook. And that's when I knew I'm in. And Hope Girls came and said, we'll keep you.
We'll keep you.
Yeah, because I had 7 days to prove if I should keep the
Yes.
slot. So that's how I got into radio.
Oh my goodness.
And left the education.
So I want to go back. You said you're looking for a space where you could speak to many people.
Yes.
And you were big on acting. So this started in school?
Right from childhood.
Okay.
Because as a child, the moment I would hear Auntie so and Uncle so and so are coming, I'd put on my act. I'd come and perform for them. That's how I made money, by the way. I had a specific uncle, Mr. Karugonjo, he's since passed on. But the moment they would tell me, Uncle Karugonjo is coming, whoa! Put on my act, I would dance, I would sing. Money. That's how I made money. So as a child, I was already a performer at home. Even when my parents would have guests and they would tell us go to sleep, I would be in the bedroom dancing. That was me. So I knew I was meant to speak and entertain, but I don't know entertain how. I've since realized it's in my speaking, really. But I can act. If you ask me to act, I will do the acting, but it's mainly the speaking.
Okay.
So right from childhood, that's what I wanted, to stand before a stage and make people happy.
So even in school, were you part of like productions? You were on stage and
In school, drama.
drama?
I was, what did they used to call us? The head of drama or chairman, chair lady of drama. I created most of the creative dances. So when I meet my classmates, the first thing they say, oh, that one with dancing. But when the Jerusalem song became popular on social media, of course I jumped in. And all my classmates were like, yeah, it had to be you. So even
She was always dancing.
Yes, because even when I left Namasagali, because Namasagali already, it was part of the curriculum. I loved that school because it was different. You would be who you are. And me, it was all about entertainment. So when I left Namasagali and I was taken to Nabingo, it was a totally different setting. Bit of Catholic and Nanic, you know, to be. And I remember that first weekend, they used to give us dances. They used to call them cow dances. Only the girls come and break your sweat. And I was popular that night because I did all the moves that I had. Michael Jackson, you name it. So the whole school got to know me because the girl who came from Namasagali who can dance. So I took over drama in secondary school and also the social bit, what we call now prom. So those are the two things you'd see me shining through.
Okay.
Yeah.
So much as you're saying you are communicated, sounds like you also love the management of events and entertainment.
That too.
Yes.
Yes.
So we were at Capital Radio. How long were we there?
At Capitol?
Yeah.
Do I remember how long I was there? Yeah, was there 90? I don't remember. But it wasn't long enough.
Okay, you left soon after.
Yes, because as I started off in the mid-morning slot, Jamila's slot. Then they wanted to try something new, the first duo male and female breakfast show. That's with Alex Indaula. Whoa, that was also another challenge. But you know me, I'm the girl who jumps in for anything. I enjoyed the stint while we were doing it together, but that's when Maria Chiwanka was coming up with Radio 1. And by the time she was coming up with Radio 1, in my mind, I'd already made up my mind that my next holiday off air, Capital Radio, I was going to settle in the UK and look for something else.
Oh, so you were leaving. You were planning to leave.
Yes, I was planning to leave. I was like, I'm tired of the breakfast show. I feel like it's... And so as I was about to fly out that night, Maria Chiwanka got in touch with me through her cousin and they're like, we hear you're going on holiday. Are you still coming back? I said, no, actually, I'm not coming back. I'm going to settle in the UK and find some other place where I will yabba. And they said, oh, we have a slot. We are setting up a radio station. I said, I'm tired of breakfast. I'm just tired of breakfast. If it's something where I can be me, because you know when you're doing a duo, you have to accommodate each other.
Yes, absolutely.
And I felt like a bit of me was dying.
Okay.
There's a bit of me that had to be pulled out
Maybe
for
you're
the sake
overly
of
compensating
yes.
at that point.
So I felt like I'm killing a bit of me, and if I stay in this, because I asked them to take me off the breakfast show, put it back in the middle, and say we can't. This is working. It's magic. I was like, okay, because I know I can work a duo, but I'm not meant to be. I want solo. So they offered me a slot. Said, go for your holiday. When you come back, we shall give you your mid-morning slot. I was like, yay, mid-morning is perfect for me. I get back from my holiday. 7 days. I was given 7 days to learn 90 FM and get rid of 91.3 capital FM. Yeah. I was like, okay, 7 days. So the day of the launch came. I knew I was going to do my mid-morning slot. And Maria comes and says, no, you're actually going to launch the station. I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
Okay.
So they pushed me into the breakfast show. Everybody was waiting for me to say 91.3 capital FM.
But you'd been practicing.
I'd practiced for 7 days. Okay, the first 7 days were not easy because every time I'd open my mouth, 91.91. You know how we rub that in our mind?
Because you say it over and
over and again. So I remember when I switched on the microphone, the song was Ain't No Stopping Us Now. I opened my mouth and I said 90 FM. Mighty 90, we have arrived. There's no turning back. And that was it. There was no more 91.3 in my head. So that's how I got into Radio 1.
Okay, and you were with Radio 1 for
A long time.
I think for a lot of people, they're like, oh, Irene, Radio 1. So you launched, by launching you did the breakfast show.
Yes, I did. And then shifted back to the mid-morning.
Okay.
I went back to the mid-morning show.
How ironic would it be that you've moved and then you're on the breakfast show?
Yes, then I went back to the mid-morning show, but when Radio 1 launched, they had missed it a bit. The music was a bit off. Yeah, so somehow worked it out, and then the management realized I knew the format they wanted, which was great songs, great memories. So I worked with Banji and we rearranged the database.
Yes,
because the consultant they had brought the idea of Europe. And those are not the memories of Africa. They were not the memories of Uganda.
Those are not our songs that we have memories.
So that's how I found myself now going into the music and scheduling department. Because I had to gather all the music that I knew. Of course, I knew music as into creative dancing, everything, and the new hits which I knew Ugandans would love. So I became an assistant. And then when something happened quickly, he had an accident, boom, I was pushed into his position as PD. Because now he had to be flown out, he had to undergo construction. And when I sat in the place for about a week, my bosses said, you know what, you can handle it. So that's how I ended up being PD, and then pushed back into the breakfast show because they needed people to, because it was struggling a bit. So they said, we need to put a voice they knew before, and you've done breakfast in Capital, so people will trust you. So PD, breakfast show.
Okay.
And there I was for some time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy being a program director?
I think I did. I love music so much. So even when I was scheduling a playlist, I would think of the person who's going to do the show and the time slot that they're in, and I'll create a vibe. So me, when I was scheduling, I'll shut the door. You would not disturb me. I would hear the music in my head. So I would think of how the listener would feel when they're tuned in their car and they're cruising. So I would schedule with the listener in mind. And
which is how it's supposed to be.
Exactly. And I loved it so.
You hear people say managing creatives is such a challenge. It's so difficult. Did you ever experience that? Did you have any hacks to managing creatives? Especially because now we find that back then, if you remember, there were just a few spaces really. You have to be in music, dance and drama or radio or TV. But now, the creative industry has just blossomed.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the reasons why eventually I left radio. For me, it was a pleasure to find the gold in someone and help them find it and find themselves. So every time a new voice came in, I would look for the gold in a person. So it was a challenge, but I loved doing it. So every time we would get someone coming in, I'll say, you know what, I would even cancel you and tell you point blank and say, with your kind of attitude and character, you can't do radio. I would be honest with you, and then I'll give you the next best advice for you so that I don't waste your time putting you on air and then my boss throws you out, because I would immediately know who it takes to be on radio, because people don't know, radio is not just about the voice.
No.
You know, there's the intelligence, there is the attitude, there is the love for it, it's connection. So someone would come with this beautiful voice and I would say, you have a lot to hide. you're not yet open, you
And
can't
you have to
handle
be
it.
open.
Yes. So I'll tell them point blank, you can't do it, it's going to kill you. And when they would sister say, fine, I'll give you 7 days to kill yourself. And after that, they'll come and say, ah, I can't handle it. I say, but I told you, because it takes a certain mindset too, and a certain character. So for me, skilling someone to become a good presenter, and not just a presenter, but in the end to find themselves, was a good challenge, and I was always ready to take it on. Yeah.
I can only imagine how many people you worked with
Oh,
and
there are
you
many.
groomed over the years,
There are
right?
so many. I meet many and they're like, oh, you remember I came and did only 1 week stint, but because of you, I now found this. I'm like, oh, okay, so I didn't just get you into radio. I got you into what you're doing. So yes, there are so many people I meet, and that's the reason why I left radio. I started seeing a pattern. I said, yes, you are PD. Yes, you do the show, but your voice is bigger than just being on radio.
Okay.
And that's when I pulled out.
Okay. But you left radio and you stayed in management.
Actually, I only stayed to have the transition.
Okay.
So I was only there for 2 months when I got off air to help the person who was taking over.
Okay.
And then I totally withdrew.
Oh my. And how many years?
Out of radio?
Were you at Radio 1?
Oh, radio, I gave it. Radio 1, I gave it
Wasn't
all
it
my
a
life.
chunk? Yes.
I gave it all my, gosh, yeah. I don't even know the years, but
Like 20 years.
I stayed there. I really stayed.
Yeah.
It was home. So, but it was time to leave. I felt, first of all, I felt like the talent that was now coming in the radio industry was different.
In what way?
I didn't,
Because it's interesting to know what has changed over the years.
I didn't quite fit in, and I didn't like where it was going. I'll be honest with you, because radio is such a powerful instrument in shaping generations and minds of people. By the time we joined, we were told you own your voice and you're responsible for what comes out of your mouth. Man, they drummed that into us, and I have left with that all my life, and maybe that's what I'm pursuing. So I felt like radio was taking a different, yes, there was the entertainment coming, but the standard was mediocre.
Yeah.
And it still is. I'm
With
going to be honest with you.
cheap,
Yes.
I'm sorry to
And
say.
so I felt
cheap glory, cheap stories, you know, basically trying to stand out, because as communicators, you're communicating something. It's not just that you're there and you're talking.
Exactly. So I felt, okay, I can't fit in with that standard, and I don't want to live when it has all, I don't want to die in it when it's dead. I want to live when they say, oh, you left and it changed. But did it change for better, or it just changed and went to a sudden So I left to find myself again, to find my voice that I knew as a child, because I still have that image in me. I know I saw it as a child, standing before mammoths of people around, and I stand before the microphone and the spotlight is on me, and I'm like, can you hear me? Because I know my voice is meant to speak for a bigger audience. So I pulled out to find myself.
You know, earlier on, this is before we started, you were telling me that from the time you were a child, you were always scribbling in notebooks, in, you know, always writing things down. And then the most amazing thing, you do not drive, because for some reason, when you're in a car and you're in motion, that's when your mind is just sparking.
Exactly. I realized with time, even as a child, my dad used to take us for evening drives. I always wanted to sit at the window. And the moment the car would move, I would get all sorts of images. And then I would draw with my finger on the window what I was seeing. There's a story that would go on. I would see things that I believed I could do and could become. I saw a world. I imagined a world that was so beautiful. And it has continued throughout. I soon realized when I started driving, even when they drive, when I sit in someone's car, and I keep quiet, I start getting ideas. I pull out my phone and I'm writing, and people think I'm rude. I'm actually, my imagination goes in overdrive. So when I started driving, I realized I would be on the road, and I would go into my imagination mode, and I forget and say, oh my God, and I reach for my bag, I want to scribble. And
While you're driving?
Yes, so I almost caused an accident 3 times. That's when I told my husband, you know what, I want you to get me a driver. I was not born to be a driver, I was born to be driven.
I love it.
Yeah, because if I told him it's about the imagination, I'm going to say something's wrong with you.